Hello everyone and welcome back. As usual, I'm DJ Selks, aka Digital Magic, from Teen Lone Wolf, here with yet more immersive railroading knowledge. So, last episode we covered the handcart and various rolling stock. Now, and I was away for a vacation. Now, as a quick note, I finally found the car that you're supposed to use to transport animals. The reason I was struggling to find it is because it's in narrow gauge, not standard gauge, like I thought. But to prove my points, pull out a lead. This cow's not... Lead it to me, my bad. If I right-click in here, and then right-click again... Oh, whoops. That cow is now stuck in there. So it'll just be riding with us for today. So today's episode is going to be covering diesel locomotives. Now, if we go back here, you'll see we've got a couple of diesel locomotives. If you go from the handcart, so from here to the Alco RS1 all the way over to the 40 tonner, which is what we will be using today, those are all the diesels that are in the base mod. So that would be the 40 tonner, which is narrow. The rest of them are all standard, which is a GE B40-8, the wide cab version of that, the C44-9CW, the SD40-2, the EMD SW 1500, or as I like to call it, the Alco locomotive. And yes, I'm very much aware it's not made by Alco, but I always think of it as that. So, and then the actual Alco RS-1. And again, as from last time, you can see it has all the same information outlines as with the handcart. So it's got the weight, where it was made, how much horsepower it has, the traction, the max speed that it can reach, and the gauge. Now, something that I might have mentioned last time, and I don't remember if I did or not, that max speed is unladen, so that's with no cars being pulled behind it. So, just as a quick note. So today we're going to be talking about the 40 tonner. And as you can see, we've got some more parts than last time. And I'll actually go ahead and pull up some of the other ones just to see that it's about 5 parts, or well, 5 individual pieces to make. So we've got the frame, the bogie wheels, the alternator, and then the actual engine block. Now, as of the moment, that is currently the parts that you have to make for diesel. However, we are currently working on changing that slightly to allow for traction engines. So just be aware of that. The part count that you see here might not be the same as in the future. So of course, as per usual, we start with the frame. And again, narrow single casting. I'm going to back away a bit so I can hear myself think. You might notice also that all of the chests are holiday themed. That's because Christmas is actually today. No, it was yesterday. Never mind. Yesterday was Christmas, so it's the 26th today. There, I click this. So, happy late Christmas to everybody, and happy holidays to everyone else that don't celebrate Christmas, like me. So anyways, here is the frame. Let me run over here. Next up, we're going to need 2 bogies, as per usual. So that's 1, that's 2. And then again, just right-click in the correct places, or use your handy-dandy large wrench. And of course, we need 4 wheels. Oh, there we go. There we go. Now, let's see. We need a cab, an alternator, some large plate, or the shell, the fuel tank, and then the actual engine block. So let's get the 2 casting parts, which is the alternator and the engine block. There we go. can see those install nice and neatly. And you'll notice that they're kind of low poly. Nothing I can do about that. This specific locomotive was made to kind of look moderately low poly on the inside. You'll notice that with a lot of diesels because you don't really see them normally, the parts under normal circumstances. So there's no, real reason to model them to be super nice looking. So we need 6 large plates and then 1 medium plate. So let's go ahead and get. I don't remember. I just making it right. There we go. Okay, so it's 1 per each. So 1, 2. 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, yeah, okay. And then we need a medium plate. Actually, do we need multiple? No, we just need 1 medium plate. And as you can see, I got 6 medium plates just from 1 block, as I mentioned in the previous episode. So, and I just right-click with this, and voila. There we go. GE 40-ton diesel electric box cab is now complete. Now, you'll notice that the name is diesel electric. This is classified as a diesel locomotive, though, so just keep that in mind. When the electrics do roll out, we might be changing that. However, at the moment, it's just a diesel. It's just classified as a diesel. So if we right-click this, you'll notice that first of all, this has a very nice looking kind of interior control system. Can't really look inside very far though. And you'll notice down at the bottom we have our nifty little control gauge. And you'll notice that there is a new, well, actually there's 2 essentially fill bars, if you will, is the best way I can put it, that were not visible on the handcart. So starting at the very far left, we have the liquid gauge. And this is true with also the steam, but I will be covering that in a bit. The far left is how much fuel is inside of it. Since this is a diesel, it runs off of diesel fuel. And I'll be explaining that in just a second. And then next is the heat level. Now, you'll notice that I have it in Celsius. That's just easier for me to remember. However, some people run it in Fahrenheit. It's purely up to you. You'll notice that it's also blue currently. I'll be mentioning that in just a bit. The color of the temperature gauge is important, so you will want to be keeping an eye on that. So popping out of here, you notice I have 3 new tanks over here. I have a gasoline tank, a diesel tank, and this is a biofuel tank. Now, if I get in here and I right-click again, you'll notice that a GUI pops up that isn't really there originally. So, if I take gasoline and I put it in here, you'll notice that this, instead of 0 out of 9,000, it says 100 or 1 out of 9,000. This is millibuckets, so just keep that in mind. So for the future, and you'll notice that as I've already put in I believe this was diesel. No, this was gasoline. So I put in gasoline, and it's colored to gasoline. I cannot put in the diesel. So just be aware that you cannot mix the fuel types. However, when I heat this up and it's fully out, you will notice that it is in fact, yeah, I can, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, for crying out loud. First I can't think, and now it starts raining. Lovely. Oh wait, no, wrong one. There we go. Completely and totally forgot what I was going to say. You can't mix them. I think that's what it was. And you'll notice that if you put an empty bucket in the bucket slot, it will fill it up with the current fuel type. So, oh, now I remember. Diesels, and also, and I'll be covering this for steam also, have a long list of what can be classified as a burnable. The easy way to check if something works is just put it in the bucket slot when it's filled and see if it takes it up. And they'll put the empty right there. That's the easiest way that I've found to do so. However, there is kind of if you know how Forge works, it's really kind of simple to remember. It will accept the fuel type if Forge recognizes it as a fuel. So what that means is, by default, biodiesel, I think petroleum, maybe diesel, gasoline, and a couple others that we've personally added in, all classify as a burnable. Again, you can change this in the config file, but you will have to leave. Actually, let me just double check this so I don't tell you wrong information. You'll see I've got a bunch of stuff actually in here. So, as you can see, through here, all this lovely stuff, there's, okay, so this isn't here. So, in here under balance, you'll find diesel fuels, and you'll find all of these fuels. So, biodiesel, biofuel, diesel, ethanol fuel, a couple different fuel types, gasoline, kerosene, LPG, oil, different oil types, olive oil, refined fuel, and refined oil. This list automatically will update according to Forge, but as you can see, I can tell you from memory that oil dense, oil distilled, and oil heavy, are not in the base config file. So just be aware that Forge does kind of keep track of that and will update it. However, if it doesn't seem to be working correctly, just go into here and you can really quickly find out if it works. You can add others to this using the config file, but you'd have to close down Minecraft and then go into the file and change that. And what these numbers represent is just how, like, its burn rate, if you will. So if I remember correctly, the higher, is it the higher the number? Hold on, biodiesel. So the higher the number, the longer it burns, if memory serves me correctly. Yeah, that way it's the other way around, but I'm fairly certain it works that way, based on what I'm seeing here. So it's just how long it burns, just keep that in mind. And also, there's, you can change, if you want to play it, like just in creative, you can turn off if fuel is required, but just keep that in mind. And then there's millibuckets per liter, and then there's a couple of other things here, but just keep that in mind. Down here is some more stuff that I'm going to really quickly cover while I'm still here, which is the diesel loco heat timescale. So that's just an easy way of figuring out how long something will heat. Obviously, it's set to Minecraft time. And also the diesel fuel efficiency, that is a modifier on top of the fuel list from earlier. And then the heat timescale, which is how long it takes to heat up. And then if at the top, it's if the diesels can overheat. And I'll be explaining that in just a second. But let me really quickly get some fuel. So go ahead and put those in. I should grab some tiny bit more. Lovely. So as you can see down at the bottom, it says I've got 4 buckets out of 9. The top number is the current and the bottom is the maximum. Just keep that in mind. Don't flip them. Because I have had to explain to some people that it doesn't really, that the top number is current, not the bottom. So just keep that in mind. Now you notice I'm trying to increase throttle, and it's not really doing anything. It seems like it's almost locked. Oops, locked at its current amount, though the brake works just fine. That's because diesels have a unique mechanic called heating, or overheating, if you will. Diesels also, as a quick note, need to be turned on. They're the only locomotive that needs to be turned on currently. I currently have mine mapped to the plus button, though again, it could be changed to however you want. Pressing the plus button for me, you'll notice that there is now a background noise playing, and also that the heat is slowly increasing. Well, moderately slowly increasing. And even now, I still can't really go anywhere, though you'll notice that it is playing a ramp up sound. Let me actually really quickly turn that down for you guys. So, but you'll notice that if I put the throttle up, it seems to be heating a bit faster than if I was just at normal. And you'll also notice that the throttle seems to be able to go a bit wider now. And as it heats up, I can move the throttle further and further. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, the throttle, the heat is still at blue, which means that it is still warming up. You can't really go anywhere while it's still warming up, as you can probably imagine. So I'm going to go ahead and increase the throttle some to try and warm it up some. Now, diesels, if I remember correctly, if memory serves me, will start to work at about either 75 or 85. 75 it is. And you'll notice now the heat is now green. And if I leave it just sitting, it will start to slowly decrease the heat. Very, very slowly. And again, that's part of the heat mechanic for diesels. And it will just hover at about 75 if you just let it sit. Now, as I increase the throttle, you'll notice the heat starts to build up again. Let me kind of pop out so you can see. Now I'm going to go ahead and couple up to this consist over here. A bit more. There we go. Lovely. So again, you'll notice that now that I've stopped, it is slowly decreasing. So first of all, there is a new button that we can also press along with the heat button, which is the horn button. And that is again mapped for me to 9. Oh, no, never mind. I lied. It's mapped to 6. 9 is a different button for me. It's mapped to 6. Now you'll notice that if I just tap it, it plays a sound bite, and it will play that sound bite through its entirety. You can't just cut it off. That is the current version. I'm soon going to be implementing a version where it does it will loop and you can let go whenever you want and it'll just cut off, or you can have it sustain as long as you want. So just keep that in mind. That is currently how it is. It will be changing this in the near future, along with adding in a bell, which I don't yet have added in, but that will be another keybind and it will act the exact same way. It's just you hold it and it will play the sound, you let go, it stops. Simple as that. Now, I held down the button in that case and it looped back around, so just keep that in mind, that works like that. So I'm going to go ahead and increase throttle and slowly head on our way. Now you'll notice that it's a bit finicky to get it to stay at a steady rate, just like with the handcart. That's true for all locomotives, so just keep that in mind. You will need to play around with your throttle to get it to a smooth, steady speed. Now, again, you'll notice that I'm going to actually turn this down so you can still hear me. You'll notice that it is still increasing heat. Let me try and get this to kind of moderately even, moderately steady speed. You'll notice that it is still increasing. And now that it's at 100, it has turned orange. Orange just is more of a warning color to indicate that you are starting to get pretty hot. And if I increase a bit more, All right, there we go. So you'll notice that as it got really close, as it got to 140, it turned red, and as it got to 150, the sound stopped, the smoke stopped, and I stopped accelerating. That means that and the red is an indicator of this, is that you're about to overheat, and when you hit 150, you have overheated the locomotive. That just means that the locomotive will shut off until it has reached a cooler temperature, which is at the... slow this down a small bit to a more reasonable speed. It will cool down until it has reached the 100 degrees Celsius mark, which is where it turns green. It's that threshold of green to orange, and it'll turn back on by itself. So you can run a diesel locomotive at full speed for a while, but just be forewarned that there is a certain threshold that after which it will just stop. An easy way of fighting this is just playing around with the throttle some. So there's a couple different ways you can kind of get around this, if you will. And that's kind of a key mechanic of the diesel locomotives. Again, you can turn that off in the configs. Let me really quickly change the game mode. Creative, so I can show you the next part. And also so I can run over here and turn it right back off. Now, a unique mechanic to the diesels, and let me really quickly break this. You'll notice that it pops the buckets back out. And if I pop it down here, it is empty. Just keep that in mind that when you remove something with inventory in it, it will throw out what it can throw out, with the exception of like liquids, and then it will just empty everything else when you break it. So just keep that in mind. Now I'm going to grab a couple buckets of diesel. Oops. Oh, come on. There we go. To show you something kind of interesting about how the diesels work that the steam locomotives do not do. Let me actually run over here. Interesting. There we go. So if I turn this on, come over here, turn this one on, and I'm going to try and bring this up to temperature a bit faster. Couple this up to the other diesel. So now I can walk between the two. You'll notice that I can, even though this isn't fully warmed up, I can put the throttle up and it will still start moving. That's because when you have two diesels hooked together, it will recognize that and will set the throttles equal on all of them so that they are moving, so that you can control all of them from just one locomotive. And again, this is a diesel only feature. And I believe in the future update, you will be able to change whether or not a diesel is able to do this, which is called EMU. Or sorry, MU, multi-unit. So just be aware of that, but most diesels at the moment can do it. Or actually, all of them at the moment can do it, in fact. But again, as you can see, both throttle, the controls just will go between the two of them. You can't see the information between the two of them though, so just be aware that you might have one of them overheating and that will not be giving you any power. So just be forewarned, you can't tell the status of the other locomotives, you can just control them. So let me go ahead and move this up. And then let me finish off this episode by doing something kind of neat. I'm going to go ahead and unhook this rolling stock from these two locomotives. Pull these two forward. So those I'm going to be using for the steam locomotive, which is next episode. And then move these over to one of these slots. Now you'll notice that the wheels seem to be slightly glitching out like crazy. Don't worry, that is just a graphical issue. We're working on trying to fix that, but just be forewarned, that's just graphical. That doesn't actually, it's not actually breaking the locomotive. But that happens with any locomotive that happens to have bogies on it, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to go ahead and back these two up. I'll actually back this up a tad bit farther. And now, these are here whenever we need them. And let me go ahead and set this turntable back to normal for us working with steam engines. And that's really the tutorial on diesels. They're beyond the handcart, they are actually probably the easiest locomotive to deal with, to be entirely honest, or at least once you get them running, that is. They're pretty simple, not a whole lot to really worry about when it comes to them. So the one problem that you really have to worry about is diesel, or the fuel rather. Again, you can kind of look into that config to find out what is recognized by the mod to be able to be used as fuel. It's just trying to figure it out. Normally, I personally use biofuel. It's one of the fuels that runs a bit fast, a bit longer, but diesel seems to be the highest at the moment. So just keep that in mind. And I think this is where I'm going to end off today's episode. So as always, I thank you greatly for coming to watch the episode. Next episode will be steam locomotives. And I hope to see you there. And as always, I've been DJ Zelix, aka Digital Magic from Teen Lone Wolf. This has been the IR tutorial series. If you enjoyed this, make sure to leave that hit that like button, especially if you feel that this helped you in some way in being able to play this mod. And if you want to get notified for when the next episode comes out, make sure to hit that subscribe button and that little bell icon so you get an email when it comes out. And as always, I will see you in the next episode. Bye!